Hello, I've decided that it's long past time that I did a play as a one-shot that isn't English, and so today we're going to do the classic 1664 farce by Molière, Tartuffe. Now this shouldn't take me terribly long because it's not really a very plot-heavy play. With Molière, despite being farces, most of the action happens in the back and forth between characters. So anytime I tell you something happens, you can imagine that it actually goes on for 10 to 15 minutes longer with people being amusing and quippy with each other simply through the actors playing these extravagantly over-the-top versions of stock characters, people being outrageously dour or outrageously frivolous or outrageously saucy or outrageously hypocritical. Play for our times. Let's look at a play that is fundamentally about decent people being corrupted, allowing themselves, that's key, allowing themselves to be corrupted by pious fakes. So yes, as I said, won't take too long because, as you know, with a one shot, what I do is I drink a shot and then I get one shot to tell you the plot of an early modern play, all in one shot, no cuts, no edits. So today, because we are in France and because it is a play about love, I have a parfait amour to drink. It's not 100% parfait amour, it's topped up with vodka and actually a splash of lavender gin for extra purple on purple, because otherwise it would be like drinking a bottle of scent straight down. So let's see how this goes. Oh, that's actually kind of delightful. Okay, so Tartuffe. Tartuffe, although being our central character, doesn't appear for, well, our named character, doesn't appear to, our eponymous character, doesn't appear for quite a while. What is important to know is this all takes place in the house of a middle-class gentleman called Orgon. Middle class in this situation means wealthy but not aristocratic, so not of nobility but a rich man with a country estate. He has a delightful family who we meet first. Orgon isn't in the opening scene. So we open with his mother, Pernelle. She is leaving the house in a huff because her son's whole family, that means his wife Elmire, his son Dami and his daughter Marianne, the lady's maid to the two women, Dorine, she's very important, pay attention to her, and Elmire's brother Clement. There's always in every Molière, there's always a reasonable man character, the guy who is actually the voice of moderation in the middle of everybody else's extremes. So that's him in this case. And she says she is done with their frivolousness, with their unrepentantness, with the fact that they mock and dismiss the rebukes of this devout, pious man, Tartuffe, who Orgon has taken into their home and has been staying with them clearly for some time. So that was very handy exposition from her. Thank you, Pernelle. And off she goes. Rest of the family grieves over the fact that Orgon is so under the spell of this ridiculous, allegedly devout man, Tartuffe. So Orgon comes home. Most of the family leave. He takes Marianne aside, the daughter, and he explains that he has decided to dissolve the agreement for her to marry her, a very lovely local gentleman of good breeding called Valère, who she loves deeply, and instead he's going to marry her to Tartuffe. Off he goes, having updated her on this information about her life. Now, she is not happy about it, but hey, at least she's taking it lying down. She more or less says to Dorine, well, what am I supposed to do? He's my dad. And Dorine says, well, yeah, you could be that spineless if you want. Then Valère turns up and she updates him on the news, and they have an absolutely pointless quarrel along the lines of well, you may as well go and marry him then. Well, maybe I have to. And then, well, maybe you should then, until Doreen reconciles them and off he goes. Now, this takes us all the way up to the end of Act 2, believe it or not. In Act 3, we actually meet Tartuffe at last. And the first thing he does is hit on Elmire. Now, that's Orgon's wife, of course, not even the daughter that he's supposed to be marrying. And she tries to bargain with him that she won't tell her husband that he did this if he agrees to support the marriage of Marianne and Valliere. Unfortunately, the Saint-Demy was overhearing all this, and he immediately comes out and confronts Tartuffe. And then Orgon appears, and Tartuffe does this whole business of saying, oh, let him accuse me. It will only help my soul. And of course, what Orgon does is turns his anger on his son, throws him out of the house, cuts him off, and it looks as if there is absolutely nothing that can convince Orgon that Tartuffe is not everything that he claims to be. It's not the good man that he and the spiritual leader that he offers to be. Now, Elmire, it has her head pretty well screwed on. So she persuades her husband to hide under a table while she speaks to Tartuffe and says, look, I will just prove to you what a hypocrite he is. Okay, so this happens very easily, but of course, if you imagine watching it, it's a lot of fun on stage, very fast-paced stuff, all gone under the table, Tartuffe and Elmire probably on top of the table, and she's pretending to acquiesce and blah, 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 until Orgon comes out from under the, well, Tartuffe goes into the hall, Orgon comes out from under the table and says, I can't believe it, this is so shocking to me, you're right, he is terrible. Tartuffe comes back in, Elmire tries to hide him because she has an instinct that a confrontation will go badly, but in the end, of course, Orgon's comes straight out and says, you are trying to seduce me with my wife, you terrible, terrible man. Sorry. So Tartuffe's response to this is, oh, I forgot to mention, when he casts out his son, he also at the same time sort of says, well, and I'm making Tartuffe my heir, so there. So Tartuffe says, well, I'm going to have, I'm going to have the last laugh, I'm leaving now, but I'll be back and I'm going to have everything that you own. So off he goes. And then the next thing that happens is that it is, there must be something that happens in between, because there's got to be a gap here. Orgon basically talks it through with his family about how he understands now what a hypocrite Tartuffe is, just long enough to create a gap for an additional character to come in and point out that Tartuffe has a deed of gift that has already been signed by Orgon to hand over his whole estate to him, and Orgon is also anxious that he shared with Tartuffe the fact that he was keeping compromising letters of a friend of his, and he was asking for spiritual guidance on these basically treasonous letters that he was keeping in a casket. So they find that Tartuffe has taken the casket. Tartuffe has declared that they all need to be evicted from the property because he now owns it. And this looks like a disaster. Next thing, Valliere turns up. So Valliere, remember, that's Marianne's boyfriend, and says, you must flee with me, sir. I will get you to safety because Tartuffe has gone to the king and he has denounced you to the king with the proof of these letters that you've been hiding, and so he's coming to have you arrested. And so Orgon says, I'm so sorry I treated you that way. I forgive you, marry my daughter, here's your guff. and they're about to escape when Tartuffe himself arrives with an officer of the king and declares that Orgon will be put under arrest for treason. And just when everything looks as if it will be an ultimate calamity, we get a sovereign ex machina, which is basically the way this whole thing resolves. We're all waiting to see how they're going to get out of this hopeless situation, and it is as basic as the king is far too wise to be fooled by such a cad, and he didn't for a moment believe a word that Tartuffe was saying, and it's in fact Tartuffe who is going to be arrested and carted off to prison, and the family is all okay, and Orgon will from now on listen to wiser tongues, be more moderate, look after his family. The girl gets to marry the boy, and everybody lives happily bourgeoisely ever after.